What's up, everyone? Welcome into the All 22 NFL podcast. You got Chris and Ray. Ray, today we are going to be discussing the edge rushers for the NFL draft that's coming up. And this is being talked about as a very, very deep group. And after review, I think I'm in agreement that it's a pretty deep group. I think it might be a slightly overblown, but I do think that I'm going to have some surprises for you at the end of this episode when we start to discuss our rankings. But let's jump right into it, which is with Nic Scourton, who is 20 years old at Texas A&M. He's played this past season at Texas A&M, 2 prior seasons at Purdue. He is 6'4", 285 pounds. So we're talking about a really big defensive end, edge rusher type player. He's played over 1,500 career snaps, and his grading has been pretty good. 80.1 defensive grade, 74.4 run defensive grade, 67.8 tackling grade, and an 80.6 pass rush grade with 4 sacks this past year, 28 hurries, and 22 stops. Right. This is a guy I was impressed with because of the physicality that he brings to the table at just 20 years old. I'm not sure if this is a hybrid type guy where he's going to be playing some inside, some outside. I'm not sure he can be a true stand-up guy, but let's jump into the film and we can kind of show people what we're talking about here. And this first one here kind of shows a little bit of maybe the youngness to his game, maybe a slight lack of discipline. Go ahead and hit play. People are going to see it pretty quickly. He gets a really nice jump here and actually beats the tackle to the outside, has a pretty good angle on the quarterback, but he doesn't really press, right? He doesn't continue to push that ring and start to come inside. Instead, he just runs past the quarterback and doesn't show me that he's going to put in a little bit of extra effort to go back. Instead, he kind of runs past him, right? And instead of even create a pile, right, that the quarterback could trip on, do something. But I didn't love that from him. Again, there was good things in the beginning of this play. Didn't really like the way it ended up, but we will live to fight another down. Second play, if we can get to that, is a really good pass rush that shows that he experiments with different moves and can do different things. He initially goes outside and the tackle is trying to catch up to him. And again, this is a really big guy with decent speed, but he beats him to the outside and the tackle kind of over pursues. Scourton is able to do a nice spin move back to the inside. The quarterback thinks he has this big open lane, Riley Leonard, who is, pretty good at rushing the football. And Scourton is able to make the tackle, brings him down for essentially a no gain. Could have been a sack, but still really, really nice play for a guy. Again, we're talking about a 285-pound defensive end edge rusher who is just winning with speed and athleticism on this play. So really love to see that. I think that's kind of the thing that NFL teams are going to be looking at and will get them excited. Play 3 here. Let's go ahead and play this one. This is again, maybe a lack of that fundamental kind of understanding of the position, a little lack of age and discipline in his play. Scourton does do a nice job on this, getting to the outside, starts to maintain that outside leverage. Quarterback looks to be rushing inside, but again, this is a very athletic quarterback in Riley Leonard. And Scourton decides to try to press inside instead of maintaining that outside leverage, and the quarterback does get outside. Scourton gets saved here because the linebacker, I don't know if it's a linebacker or safety, that number 0, but he does a fantastic job closing the gap, right, and pursuing and forcing him to the outside, Riley Leonard to the outside. But Scourton, it really is. It's his responsibility. You do not let the guys outside of you. You cannot guess inside and lose that leverage. Don't love that. I do think there are other players on this play on the inside that maybe lost their assignment, but it's really you have to do your job. You can't rely on everybody else to do theirs. You need to be doing yours, and he loses that leverage on this play.
I don't like how he's huffing and puffing right now. He's just lumbering.
He's doing it, dude. You see that at the end there. You can see he goes out of bounds, and it looks like he's holding on for dear life to just stay on his feet. But I love the effort for sure.
Yeah.
This is another one where you see a very, very quick win from Scourton. You could go ahead and hit play. Very quick win. Riley Leonard decides to just get rid of the ball unless he's going to get smacked. So he throws it real quick. And Scourton does a great job smacking the ball down. Again, an incompletion, pass deflection. Just a really nice job all around by Scourton. Again, reasons why NFL teams get excited about this guy. Next play here is kind of another example of Scourton kind of guessing inside. At first, he does a really nice job really kind of squaring up the tackle, right? He kind of right there, that's what you want to see, right? Square him up. make the running back make a decision based on what you're doing, but you stay square, right? So that if the running back goes inside, you can shed and go inside. If he goes outside, you shed and go outside. Instead, he makes a really quick decision to start to shed inside, and the running back gets a clear lane outside, right? The team does a great job kind of hustling, and guys swarm to the ball carrier, so it doesn't really have a big negative effect. But still, as the edge rusher, you need to maintain outside. You shouldn't let him outside. You need to maintain that block. You can't be guessing, right? Because on a different play, the other guys are going to get blocked too, and this is going to be a really big gain. So need to see that discipline play in and play out from Scourton. Can't just always rely on your athleticism. Last play I have here, a really nice job again, but he doesn't finish. So again, he wins with athleticism. He's able to essentially run down a running back who's probably twice the athlete he is, closes the gap from the outside to the inside, makes almost a very, very nice play in the backfield, and should have. But even though he's that 285-pound guy, just can't get the running back down right here, right? And again, guys are swarming. His defense is doing a great job swarming and helping him out. He does a great job stopping it in the backfield, right, and causing that chaos. But you need to finish your tackles. This would have been a huge tackle for loss for him. Instead, somebody else is getting the stats that he deserves. So again, it's kind of it shows the athleticism. It shows that trend that we're talking about. Great athleticism, great size, great effort, great instinct, but maybe a lack of discipline to finish plays and really be that all-around edge rusher that NFL teams are going to want to see.
All right, let's watch number 87 come across the screen here. Yeah, he can't play for me. That's two. That's two. Let's watch it from the other angle here. I'm not going to say his name on the podcast here, but he did not do California proud on this one. I'll just say that. He whiffed twice.
Not reviewing him today, Ray.
I know. I'm sorry. It stuck out like a freaking sore thumb here. That's not what you want your tight end to do there, coming across formation. But
that's pathetic. It is.
Yeah. Sorry, 87.
So Ray, who are you going to start off with here?
So all right, let's see who we got next year. I already forgot the order. Like I know we talked about the order. Okay, yeah, Mykel Williams.
Let me give a quick overview of Mykel Williams then before you jump in. So Mykel Williams at Georgia, he is 20 years old, 6'5", 265, 3 years he spent at Georgia, over 1,100 snaps, almost at that 1,200 number. He's graded pretty well, 78.4 defensive grade, 82.9 run defensive grade, 60.2 tackling grade, and a 70.7 pass rush, 5 sacks on the year, 15 hurries, and 16 stops. Ray, show us why you like this guy, or maybe you don't.
Yeah, we'll see. So again, I always do the caveat. Chris always forgets to do the caveat. I also think he had like 6 plays on our first player here, so he's probably breaking his own rules too. But again, we are not showing just highlights. We are identifying trends within a player's game and then taking examples of those trends to present to you here so you can get an idea of the player and a picture of their strengths and weaknesses. Oftentimes we can get that done in one game. We'll watch multiple games, but then try to pick those examples out for just one. Kind of makes it a bit easier to follow that way. But not necessarily always the case. So Mykel Williams, we're going to get into it here. He is the edge rusher at the top of your screen right now, above or across from the right tackle here. So number 13 as we go through. And I think this is very early on in the game, and it kind of paints the picture kind of right off the bat here. So off the snap, kind of a decent rush there, but can't really turn the corner. And we're going to see some more detail here from the end zone angle. Again, I think this is Cameron Williams, also draft-bound tackle from the University of Texas. So I like highlighting this game. You kind of had a lot of good on good here. This is the SEC championship game. So Mykel Williams here, off the snap, again, kind of flashing hands here, ready to hand fight, tries to get to the outside, does a decent job of not allowing a lot of surface area for the tackle to control or react to, but can't quite turn that corner. And you'll kind of notice right here, he's trying to gain control or control that wrist or control that elbow of the outside arm of the tackle here. If you can do that, you can get his hands off of you and clear yourself a path for the quarterback. But he doesn't necessarily show enough play strength to get that done. So I think he kind of gives it a try, doesn't work there. And then he just kind of continues to push towards the quarterback, but can't doesn't really show the violence in his hands to disengage, despite an otherwise pretty good rush and, decent amount of pressure there from the edge that causes Ewers ever so slightly to kind of back up, not really step into this throw. It was, a clear open target anyway, but a decent rush from Williams, but you kind of saw in the details there what could have been done to really allow him to come home. And you're just wondering if, does he have that violence or that play strength in his hands to kind of get over the hump there? So again, lined up over right tackle here on the edge. And we're going to see here again, same thing, decent rush off the snap. You'll kind of notice here, he's the first one moving, right? Others are still just getting out of his stance. He's already in a decent stride. He gets a good jump, but just can't really, once he's engaged, doesn't really have the strength to disengage by any means. He kind of runs down the middle of the tackle here, which is what you don't want to do. You can see he's trying to kind of rip under here, doesn't work, tries to then come back around to the inside. And at that point, it's just too late. You probably get a decent view of it here. At this point, tries to maybe go under to the outside, doesn't work, then tries to come back around inside, too much traffic, can't really disengage. So good jump off the snap, but so far I'm wanting to see some more strength here from Mykel Williams. So you saw the arrow. We're just going to keep going to the next play here. Now he's lined up across left tackle. I believe this is Kelvin Banks, and we're going to let this run here. And this is Mykel Williams. He gets the sack here, but again, this is hustle play. So this isn't actually a matchup against the left tackle, but he's got now two blockers coming across formation here, pulling guard here. He engages, stays square, is able to split them both, kind of keep those active hands to disengage and then sack the quarterback. So his hands are active, though they're not necessarily the most violent to date. So he'll make you pay if you get sloppy in your technique here, or, you leave an opening. And that's what he does here. So kind of starts to grow on you a little bit.
Can I challenge that, Ray? If you go back to that one, just because I do think that there's a little bit of the tight end seems to think that the guard is going to stay engaged and help out, that he was just chipping potentially. And it seems like almost a missed assignment by probably the guard, maybe the tight end, but I don't know if he really beats him.
Oh yeah, no, that's my point, is that they left him an opening to take advantage of. They definitely messed up here. Okay. They disengaged too quickly. There's at no point was there sort of a nice tandem here. It's one engagement, two engagement. The guard is already disengaged. Tight ends, you could see from the tight ends, helmet placement here, head placement. He's not expecting to kind of take over this block head on, and there's the sack. But the motor and kind of the activity from Mykel is what kind of gets it done here. So he'll make you pay for making a mistake more so than just straight beating you, physically. It's kind of what I'm trying to get at here. These wide shots are a little bit blurry here because they shot from the freaking rafters, but we're going to keep it going here. So again, off of left tackle. And this time, again, to me, if you watch from just the vantage point of the left guard and left tackle here, kind of an overset here. Just look at that green space between both of them here. You're going to see it from the other angle. Mykel Williams is smart. He sees the overset to the outside here and is just going to work back inside and split them both, gets the pressure, and it's an eventual interception here. So you're going to see it here. Lines up wide. Banks takes a wide set to the outside, and the help from the left guard is a little bit late. This is a very wide split here between the two, and he's just going to run into space, swim over, and go ahead and get pressure on the quarterback. So here, the key or the difference here in these pressures is that he's not directly engaging with the tackle in sort of a feat or matter of strength. He makes a move in space prior to, and then can get skinny and allow his athleticism to work, as opposed to just a head-on, rush against, Kelvin Banks one-on-one. He's able to kind of split the two because of the space that, again, kind of an F up on their part there, and he just takes advantage of it and, forces the interception here. I think this is the last play we have, And I think it is because I play by the rules, and I'm pretty sure this is play 5. So again here, which is kind of to the overall theme here in the run game, he's going to stack pretty well, kind of leaning a bit to the inside here, but he is being sort of doubled by the tight end wrapping around here. And, he has his teammates over there to clean up. He's not giving any ground, but as we'll see with a couple other rushers later, he's not necessarily taking any ground either or moving the line of scrimmage to his advantage. So you're going to see a bit of the double here, so he doesn't fully kind of control the outside, but a good long arm here, and he's not giving up any ground. He's not being driven backwards by any means. So he allows that allows the second level defenders to kind of flow through and make the play. So he's not the most powerful guy. He's not going to go ahead and just disrupt everything in the run game, but he is going to hold his own as well and just kind of be sort of a net neutral, if you will, and he's not going to burn you. So I know we're going to get deeper into sort of our overall view of these guys a bit later on in this episode, but I think we get the picture as far as the type of player that Mykel Williams is so far.
Agreed. Great job, Ray, on that. I looked at the list. I did my homework. I think James Pearce is next, right? Tennessee's James Pearce, 21 years old, 6'5", 243 pounds. I think that 243 is questionable, but we'll talk about that later. He's played 3 years at Tennessee, 987 snaps. His grading from this past season, 87.1 defensive grade, 84.1 run defensive grade, 63.4 tackling grade, 89.4 pass rushing grade, 8 sacks, 43 hurries, and 28 stops. So a very, very productive year for Pearce. This first play here is a good rush. You could go ahead and hit play there. Really good rush. And it's kind of similar to some of the things you were just talking about where, hey, you got off the ball really, really well, but how do you finish, right? How do you beat the tackle once you're engaged? I just thought he had a hard time on some of these plays, James Pearce here, just beating the tackle, like when he's trying to be strong, right? When he's trying to do like a bull rush there at the end, how is he going to be able to win, right? Jalen Milroe had plenty of space. Nobody else was really getting pressure here. But how do you finish? What are you doing to actually separate from the tackle to give yourself that ability to get to the quarterback? And I think he doesn't do a great job of it there. Yes, he does a nice job blowing off the ball. He does a decent job long arming and getting some extension there. But how do you finish? How do you get the separation at the end of that to actually complete the play? So part of the trend that I saw with Pearce, we could go ahead and go to play 2. And it really is just, again, with that weight being 243, which might actually be overrated, you're not going to be able to bull rush an Alabama tackle. Those guys are usually pretty darn thick. And James Pearce right here tries to go directly into him. Somebody else makes a really nice play, but James Pearce with the bull rush, I just don't see him winning that way at the college level, which means to me that he's definitely not going to win that way at the NFL level. And if the rest of the line kind of held up here, I think Milroe would have been able to stay in this pocket pretty cleanly because Pearce isn't affecting it. Let's go ahead on to play 3. Again, he's going to win with speed here, but he loses contain. And, you're talking about a really athletic player in Milroe. Yes, he makes Milroe get pretty deep. So, it's not necessarily a loss, right? Because he does force him to get deep and tries to maintain that outside, but he loses his feet and Milroe doesn't necessarily finish the play, but I think at the next level, we saw it in the Super Bowl, right? Like a few times Patrick Mahomes was able to get past, a blitzer and make a play. Quarterbacks at that next level in the NFL level, once you let them outside, if you give them that space, they can dance around for a long time and really find the receivers that they want to find. So I'd like to see him finish some of these plays. You could go ahead and go on to play 4. Which is a really nice play here. And again, I talked about it a little bit, right? Staying square, right? When you take on a block, staying square and don't guess. Pearce does a really nice job squaring up right there, right? He's square and he realizes that it is not a run play. It's not a designed handoff. So now I can disengage and try to get to the quarterback. So he does that. He actually stops, he does get to the outside, forces it back inside and makes a play on, again, a very, very athletic quarterback in Milroe. So it was a very nice play from my perspective for Pearce. The only thing I will add to that is that the caveat, he was being blitzed by a tight end, right? And I would like to see, right? And I'm going to say this about a couple guys today. If you're being blocked by a tight end and you're a defensive end or an edge rusher, I want to see you make that tight end hurt, right? Like you should be blowing that dude backwards pretty quick. Like once your hands are on him, he should be taking 2-3 steps back. You're like basically pushing the sled at that point. So I would like to see a little bit more from that on that play from Pearce, but nice job overall. And then next play here, just a really great job, again, staying square on a block and being able to make a play, right? I think Pearce does a really nice job of that. And I think it's actually like kind of funny. He plays the run decently well for a smaller guy. But again, pulling guard, takes him on very square, tries to shed the block, right? This is a guy that probably's got like 50 pounds on him potentially, or maybe even more than that. Does a great job, again, keeping him square, keeping his arms extended and engaged, right? Being able to shed and get to the running back. He doesn't choose a side until the running back chooses the side. And then he does a nice job tripping him up. Nobody else was making that play, right? There's a really nice bit of blocking there by Alabama. If he clears this, there's a lot of green ahead of him. So Pearce does a really fantastic job just tripping him up enough to stop this from being a big, big positive.
Yeah, that was almost an explosive. That was a really good job.
It really was. Next play here. This one hurt. And this is kind of the sum of part of what my concerns are with Pearce. And it really is just when you have the ability to finish a play that's going to be game changing and you don't do it, it says a lot about what you're going to be when your opponent gets that much better and that much harder, right? He does a great job blowing by the defensive end or by the tackle with his speed and has Milroe basically dead to rights in the end zone. And this is 2 points. Like you're scoring for your team here if you can finish this play. And he just doesn't finish, right? Milroe, again, being a great athlete, gets outside of it. Milroe kind of pees down his leg here, doesn't make the throw to an open receiver down the field. This could have been like a really nice positive gain for Milroe. Doesn't do it. But to me, it should have never even been an opportunity because Pearce should have stopped this in the end zone. And then the last play that I have here is just, again, winning with speed. If it's really him versus a slower offensive tackle, Pearce has all the speed in the world to make him pay. And here it's just like the guy barely gets mitts on him, right? Just Pearce blows by him. Great jump off the ball and a great job finishing. Milroe kind of identifies that it's happening, tries to step up, but he doesn't really have a shot to here. So again, great job. That's kind of what you're going to get with Pearce. And I think we covered everything that you see, but we'll talk about it, like you said, at the end of the episode, kind of our overall thoughts on the prospect.
Yep. And no, that was not offsides, in case anyone was wondering.
Correct. Is this Mike Green? Mike Green, yes. Green. Mike Green from Marshall. Okay, 6'4", 248 pounds. I was not able to find this dude's birthday, so I don't know how old he is. He only played for 3 years, so I'm assuming he's like 21 or 22, but that's unconfirmed. But like I said, he played 2 years at Marshall, 1 year before that at Virginia, played almost 1,100 snaps, just under. Grading from last year was honestly elite, right? 92.4 defensive grade, 90.2 run defensive grade, 73.1 tackling grade, 91.4 pass rushing grade, 17 sacks last year, 32 hurries, and 49 stops. So again, elite numbers. Ray, I'm really excited to see what you have to say about him.
So can you read that height and weight again?
6'4", 248.
Okay, 6'4", 248. So somewhat similar to at least the listed numbers for Pearce. Is that fair?
Yes, that is fair.
Yeah. So, okay. So you hear that with those numbers, and from what we've heard and seen from Mike Green already, a lot of people are sort of positioning him as or sort of identifying him as, categorizing him as this speed rusher, upfield, kind of make havoc, get skinny, bend the edge, all that fun stuff. And the first play here, it seems very basic, but to me, it kind of stood out a bit as well. But we're just going to go ahead and run it here. And this is a simple sort of read action from Ohio State, and he plays it perfectly. If that were the case, he does not just fly upfield and open up, some natural either lanes underneath for any potential running plays. He plays this perfectly, stays parallel to the line of scrimmage, at the line of scrimmage, cuts down on the space there and makes the read tough for the quarterback if that were the case. So it's throw to the flat instead, but I love the discipline to identify the action in front of him. And just, you could tell he's been well coached. He's repped this. It's fundamental football here. So it's not sexy. There is no stat at all, no metric created by this play. This isn't a hurry. This is, none of that, no pressure. but he plays this very well if this were indeed some type of read action from Ohio State in the run game here. So not just, bat out of hell, screaming down, upfield, undisciplined type of rusher here. So second play, we're going to let this run lined up over right tackle now. And now here is the sort of upfield, bendy, what you've come to expect from Mike Green, right? He does beat the tackle to the outside here, beats his outside shoulder, and then really flattens the angle here to get to the quarterback. It's a quick release from Howard. So he gets the ball off, but this is immediate pressure. He's the only one really in the vicinity of the quarterback at the time of this throw. So Howard has to rush this a little bit. The corner gets flagged. Not sure if it's legit or not, but it is Ohio State, so they're definitely going to get that call if it's close because it's Ohio State. But in any event, we're going to see from this angle, again, the dip underneath. I talked about surface area with Mykel Williams. So here, again, you're just there's nowhere for the tackle to really strike. He's already beaten him to the outside. He's getting skinny. He's dipping underneath. Now he's going to rip and flatten the angle and go to the quarterback. If this is not a quick drop and a quick release, this is yet another sack for Mike Green. So that's how you get 17 sacks in a season right there. Josh Fryer's having a hell of a day right here. So again, Mike Green lined up over right tackle. And this time he's going to feint to the inside, show that athleticism again, and actually finish the play for the sack here. So lined up wide, kind of gives that fake to the inside, gets him off balance. He can start and stop quicker than the tackle. So he's going to go ahead, execute the spin move there. And then same thing, flat angle to the quarterback and finish. A lot of times edge rushers, this is a spin, so not exactly one-to-one comparison, but a lot of edge rushers here will win to the outside and kind of get pushed past, by the tackle. The tackle will just sort of run the hoop with them, so to speak, allowing the quarterback to step up. Whereas with Green here, he flattens the path to the quarterback. There is no loop. This is a straight shot to Will Howard and makes the play. So explosive, bendy, twitchy, all that fun stuff here with Mike Green. And I think I only did 4 because, he kind of tells you who he is right away, and there's no question about it. He is who he is. I could have had a fun time showing a half hour of clips worth of Mike Green being athletic, twitchy, bendy, and just fun as hell to watch. But just an example of him in the run game here. You mentioned being blocked by a tight end. And so that's what he is here. He's kind of setting the edge. And again, this isn't a super negative to me because at the end of the day here, he kind of closed the action inside. The running back should have been bottled up at this point. But he doesn't necessarily control the action after a certain point. That's not necessarily his game. Didn't realize I let this clip run that long. We're just going to zoom in on the celly here. But again, so good initial strike here, right? Identifies the action to his inside, but instead of really squeezing here or even just straight up disengaging, right? He's still, kind of engaged here, now disengaged because of the bounce outside. But I feel like at this point, he's fully declared he's no longer controlling the action here. If there is a bounce outside, there is no opportunity to swim back to the outside. I don't hate it too much, but since this is a tight end, I almost feel like I wanted more just whoop some ass here. This isn't a tackle to where you're declaring one side, you're just trying to make a play, and then it's just a nice bounce from the running back. Tight end, I kind of want you to maintain control here, even if you have an idea here of what's happening to the inside. So a bit nitpicky, but I think the overall sort of takeaway there is that he's not some super powerful player in the run game. But I don't think you could normally get away with blocking him with a tight end either. This is just a hell of a play by Travion Henderson.
What a rep by Henderson for sure.
Yeah.
Great rep.
And there's a lot.
All right, next we got Abdul Carter, 21-year-old from Penn State. Last 3 years he spent with Penn State. One interesting thing to note is he played 2 years of linebacker before switching to edge this past season. So edge, he's only played edge for 1 season, and it was this past year. He is 6'3", 252 pounds. And his grading at edge this past year was elite. 91.2 defensive grade, 78.2 run defensive grade, 64.8 tackling grade, 92.3 pass rushing grade, but also an 81.8 coverage grade in 61 snaps, 13 sacks, 43 hurries, and 43 stops. Right? I know I was pretty much really hard on you a couple times about holding it to 5 plays. I did 8. I didn't think you'd mind with Abdul Carter. First play here, you could go ahead and hit play. I love this play, and it just shows the intensity that he plays with, right? And he's not just this crazy good athlete that, uses just speed. Here, essentially, 2 pulling blockers are coming directly at him, and he beats both of them. He basically fools them both by going right in between the 2 of them, blows up the play, and gets it for a tackle for a loss here. Really, really nice play by Carter. Just shows, again, he can play with more than just speed. There's a different type of intensity that this guy brings to the table that he probably got from playing 2 years of linebacker. So I'd love to see that. Next play is showing a little bit of that speed. This is just showing how quick he is to disrupt a play, right? He essentially beats the tackle to the inside quickly. The tackle kind of has to hurry to kind of respond, tries to close it there, but he's too quick, he's too fast, and Howard kind of panics, right? He knows Abdul Carter's coming. This is a pick 6, right? And this is caused because Abdul Carter is disrupting the game, and Will Howard really has to be quick to get rid of the ball, just knowing that speed is coming directly at him. So game-changing plays, right? This is what we're talking about with this guy. Then here again, this is like a power play, but he does a great job getting through, right? And starting to create chaos, but I want to see him finish this. And this is what I think comes from a little bit of that lack of maturity at the position, where maybe he's not used to being in this position, right? You're essentially free run at a quarterback and you need to break down. He tries to get his hands up, right? Saying, I'm going to bat this down if you try to throw it. But instead, he kind of loses the quarterback. Quarterback steps up. And I talked about how this is what NFL quarterbacks do when you miss, right? You make them pay. He does a great job completing this pass, Howard does, for a pretty big gain here, right? And continues the drive instead of a 10-yard loss. You're talking about a 10-yard gain. So would like to see him finish those plays. But again, a great job exploding off the line and disrupting the play. This is kind of what we were talking about before, where I just don't like seeing tight ends block my edge rushers. And here it results in a touchdown. Carter gets basically stood up, and I talk about how I want to see you get square, but I want to also see you in control. And the tight end here really gets his hands on Carter, and Carter's essentially in a disadvantageous position to make a play. He tries to one-arm him, but doesn't really get separation in the way that he wants to, and is essentially forcing the play to go outside where typically you'd want it to go inside. I think other players on the team here get absolutely destroyed. You see number 1 just get bulldozed. That can't happen, right? The corner's job is really to keep things inside of him, and does a atrocious job there, keeping the outside leverage. Safety also is a bit late on the banana. Would like to see a lot of other players play that well, but again, it starts with Carter, and he should have blown up the tight end on this and kept his leverage, and he loses it on this play.
Yeah, you didn't say that to number 1 when we saw him in person a couple months back. I'll say that, but also this is why Travion Henderson is flying up some draft boards. I'll just say that. Another phenomenal rep from Travion there. That block is just punishing. This was actually ended up in a turnover because Will Howard fumbled right at the end there. So, actually was not a touchdown, but should have been, right?
Should have been a touchdown.
That's typically a touchdown 99 out of 100 times, but that fumble right at the end there for a touchback. Great play by Zachy Wheatley.
Exactly. All right. I wanted to show the capabilities to the full extent as well of what Abdul Carter can bring. So watch this play here and just watch how easy he wins, right? He does a great job, right? There's some intelligence that comes here on this play by essentially keeping the tackle's hands off of him. Yes, he's trying to win with speed. He's trying to be bendy and bend that corner, but the tackle does a decent job getting hands, right? Getting square, getting the hands, but Carter just gets rid of him, right? Quick punch down, right? Quick swipe of the hand, gets it off of him, and it just finishes, right? And this is like easy for him. It looks easy. And every game I watch of Carter, there's 2, 3, 4 plays a game like this where he just wins that easy and creates some kind of havoc, right? And that's a big one there.
That's just mom and dad. That's just genetics.
That's just genetics. That's right.
Just nature makes him do that easily.
I just wanted to show in the same game that he's playing edge rusher and getting sacks left and right, he's playing middle linebacker and dropping into coverage. Does he get, a little happy feet here trying to follow the quarterback's eyes? Sure. But I think he knew what the coverage was behind him. And that was probably designed where, hey, follow the quarterback's eyes, we have a safety over top that's going to come down if the ball comes this way. So I think it worked out well. But I just wanted to show, right? Like there is a chance that at the next level, this guy can play some reps at inside linebacker, which is flexibility that there's not many teams that wouldn't love this to be on their roster. So again, something just truly special about Carter. Next one here, again, just watch how embarrassing this is for the tackle. So Carter beats him basically dead to rights and is about to get a free run at the quarterback. And the tackle basically just grabs on. It's Ohio State. I don't remember if this gets called. It didn't look like it.
It did not. They didn't call anything.
But watch how devastating this hold is. And like, just again, embarrassing for this tackle to have to hold on for dear life and still lose the rep, and Carter still getting the sack. Phenomenal, right? This just shows, again, right? College tackles cannot hang with this guy. This is a next level prospect that we're talking about here. And then the last play I wanted to show is, nothing really devastating happens, but watch the bend. This is that elite level bend that I want to see every time from my prospects. I didn't see this with Pearce. I didn't see this with Mike Green enough. Like, yes, they do a good job getting flat, but neither of them were doing this, right? Watch how low he gets and to maintain his balance right there, right? Right there. His knee's basically on the ground. He doesn't lose his balance. He's still coming full speed at the quarterback, gets his hand. He's turning. Like, Will Howard has to get rid of this ball a second longer, and this is a sack. Nobody else is doing that.
Yeah,
Nobody else is doing that.
He goes from this position here, which is not on the ground, to at the quarterback.
To at the quarterback. Truly impressive. So I'll stop gushing over Carter. Let's finish this off with another really interesting prospect in Shemar. I'm going to say Shemar.
Yep.
Shemar Stewart, 21 years old, out of Texas A&M, 3 years at Texas A&M. He is 6'6", 290 pounds. He's played 1,255 snaps for them. His grading this past year, 79.5 defensive grade, 88.2 run defensive grade. I think that's the best we've seen out of this group. Pretty poor tackling grade, 44.7 and a 67.2 pass rushing grade. He has 2 sacks, 33 hurries, and 15 stops this past year. Curious what you think about him, Ray.
I'm curious still about what I think about him. Like, I'm curious to see where he eventually falls. But let's just dive into what we see here. So he's going to be lined up across left tackle. So at the top of your screen on the edge. After you watch a few plays, you'll even amongst the talent that is there on Texas A&M on the defensive line, you can kind of pick him out pretty quickly. So physically imposing. So again, over left tackle here at the top of your screen. And yeah, just what did you say he was? 6'6", 290? Was that the official measurement of him?
Yes.
Yeah, 6'6", 290 here. And what you're going to notice is he's getting push, but that's all he's getting. And this is Will Campbell, so this is good on good. But why is all he getting push here? And what I mean is, as an offensive lineman, right? I'm gonna steal a phrase from what I consider one of the top guys in the entire just sort of scouting space here in Vach Lombardi, where if you're an offensive lineman and you're getting beat, just die slowly. Just don't die a quick death. And that's basically what's happening here. Stewart has the long arm to the inside on Campbell. So he's in control. That arm length, you see it here. He's driving him backwards with force. But there's no follow-up action here to disengage. There's no rip. There's no swim. It's just straight push. And as a lineman, you could use a hop technique or whatever else to just die slowly. And that's what happens here. He dies slow enough that allows the quarterback to get rid of the ball. He still disrupts the play a bit, and it ends up being incomplete. But he allowed the lineman to die a slow death, and they'll take that. They'll take that. So we're going to see him here again, lined up over left tackle. And again, he's controlling the action, right? Just the sheer power here. Look at how off balance the tackle is here. This will never get called. It's a bit of a hold here because he is grabbing onto that shoulder pad there, does not let go and impedes his action, but that's not going to get called. But look at how off balance he puts Campbell here. He's 2 yards into the backfield and disrupts the run. Now, he doesn't disengage enough or in control enough to actually finish the play here. And there's a nice little seam here for the back if, the rest of the defense doesn't flow to stop the play here. So he disrupts the play, but play did get past him a little bit. You just wonder, could you just sort of finish there and disengage? Because once you have a tackle like this, just completely like you've won the rep, now finish the rep. You've won the fight. Now get off the block and make the play. I mean, he, in a sense, already did make the play by blowing it up and driving the tackle back in the backfield. But there's a little bit more there that, is left to be sort of untapped, if you will, from Shemar Stewart on this play. Again, 6'6", 290, and he's playing on the edge. So we're going to see him here again over left tackle, number 4. And kind of same thing here. He's getting push. He's getting push. Now, this is a quick release, but by getting push, he allows the tackle to just die a slow death. It's not a quick win, and he allows the pass to get off and, decent gain, but don't allow him to die a slow death. Don't give him that honor. Just I want to see more fast wins, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And that's not exactly what you see on the edge. But again, we're going to line him up off left tackle again. And again, this isn't a one-on-one with a tackle rep or anything, but he has a burst. And so when you play angles here, you try to cut him off or reach block on the backside. You're playing with fire there because he just is quicker than you. You think you have an angle, you don't. Those 6'6" strides just eat up ground at the line of scrimmage, and he will then knife into the backfield and make some plays in that sense. So if you try to engage him straight up, he's going to beat you with length and strength, but you can kind of die a slow death. If you try to get cute and play some angles here and cut him off on the backside, he might just be too quick for you, and this is what could happen. So we'll probably talk more about his projection, when we sum this all up. But don't get cute with Shemar Stewart here, because he is a hell of an athlete at 6'6", 290, and he can make you pay for stuff like this.
That's it. We did it.
That's all we got.
That was pretty quick, Ray. I'm kind of proud of us right now. I'm going to kind of switch up the view. We're going to welcome in audio-only people. So thank you, everyone, for tuning into the All-22 NFL podcast. Ray and I just went through the edge rushers from this draft class, the best guys that we expect to be in this draft class at the edge position. And if you haven't, go to YouTube and check out that film, because there is a lot of great stuff in there that you're going to want to hear. But right now, we're going to kind of transition the conversation to kind of starting to go into our rankings of these prospects and talk about just a summary of what we think of what we saw, right? I'm going to start, Ray, at number 6 for me, and then you can tell me where you have this guy, and we could talk about who you have at number 5. But number 6 for me was Mykel Williams, the 20-year-old out of Georgia. Just to recap real quick, 6'5", 265, 1,100 snaps, 78.4 defensive grade, 82.9 run defensive, 70.7 pass rush grade. So this is a very young prospect that I expect to have kind of like the insane measurables that we're going to get to the combine, and people are going to start gushing over this guy. You can tell that he's got insane length in his arms. He's got great speed. It looks like he's a phenomenal athlete. And really just truly capable because of that size, that mix of size, 6'5", 265. He can probably play most spots on the defensive line along with edge rusher as well. But I did struggle to see kind of how he's going to fit, where he's going to excel the most at the next level. I don't know if I saw that, right? Like, what position is the NFL going to put this guy into where I'm going to see the best version of him compared to the other guys that we watched today? I also don't think he really shows that true edge pass rush skill set that creates difference makers at the next level, right? And I think you need to have one of two skill sets, right? You either need to be this big-bodied, impactful run defense kind of edge player, which like maybe he could be, or you need to be this super quick, fast, lightning bolt, powerful, explosive edge rusher. And I don't think he's that, at least yet. He wouldn't be my choice of this group. I have him at 6. I probably think of that as like a mid-second round guy. So again, we're talking about edge. These guys are going to go early no matter what. So I still think this guy has the potential to be a day one guy. But if I was a team picking, right, and it's my turn, I'm kind of thinking mid-day 2.
So I have Mykel Williams at 4, but that's right now today. because I think there may be some, maybe a kid from Texas that we can maybe talk about in the future who may be above him too. And I think overall, your assessment of the player is spot on. And to me, when I see Mykel Williams, I think he started out pretty highly ranked on a lot of publications and is like kind of slowly dropping down the board, it seems, as time goes on, as more and more film comes out and so forth. And I think the reason for that really is, at the end of the day, I don't think as an NFL team, Mykel Williams can be your edge one. He just does not have that skill set or capability. I think he's a complementary player that does many things well, and he grows on you. And kind of as the game goes on, I don't see him wear down at all, which is which is important and a very good trait to have. But there is no next level high end trait to hang your hat on, or really just, be your moneymaker as an edge one. I think he's a complimentary edge piece in the NFL. I think he has a high floor because when you make a mistake, he'll make you pay. He does a lot of things well, but there is not that elite high end trait that he can really or you could really hang your hat on with Mykel Williams, when it's nut crunching time. So I think he's a complimentary piece at the next level, but a good one at that. So I have him at 4. And I think the reason why he's falling is he doesn't have that same upside as some others.
Yeah. That's kind of what I saw. So tell me, if he's your 4, who is your 6?
My 6 is Nic Scourton. He never did it for me. Like I was kind of bored watching him. I never got excited. Nothing excited me. Like, yeah, he had a cool spin move or anything. I think what hurts with Scourton is, I'm not even sure he's an edge, right? He's kind of a stocky type, and there's different archetypes for edge, right? I think sometimes you have to kind of separate like the twitchy guys that kind of bend around the corner and really are sort of the screaming pass rush type of guys versus a guy like, we didn't do his film today, but JT Tuimoloau out from Ohio State, for example, a Jack Sawyer, like those power players. They're not the bendy types. Scourton is definitely not that. I just wonder if he's an edge at all, because even when he does win to the outside, I don't see the closing pursuit with just his steps and his angles. I don't see him closing at the next level very well. And just his build, I mean, he looks like a tackle. He looks like Oso Odigizua. He doesn't look like any edge I could put my finger on. He looks like a D tackle. So for me, I wonder if just long term he's on the interior. So if I'm looking at him as edge, I got a slew of guys above him. He's 6 today because we named 6. I might put the kid in Texas over him as well, and maybe a few others. So I'm just not sure he's edge long term. I think he's maybe a 5 tech type of 3-4, over the shade of the tackle at that point. Not necessarily a true edge like most come to think of. That may be his calling. I don't see it on the edge. I think in the NFL those traits translating very well.
I think I'm on the same page with you there. I have him at 5 for a lot of the reasons you said. But just to give the quick overview, Nic Scourton, 20 years old, 6'4", 285, 2 years at Purdue, this past year at Texas A&M, 1,500 snaps, 80.1 defensive grade, 74.4 run defensive grade, and an 80.6 pass rushing grade. I thought a lot of the same things, right? I think his body is imposing, right? I think his speed is slightly better than the expectation is. He has a decent move arsenal. I see that he's starting to learn kind of like the nuances of the position, which I like to see. And I don't think this is a guy that will get blocked by tight ends, which is something we pointed out a few times when we did our film review. But the negatives, that speed is better than you expect, but it isn't necessarily what you want from an edge rusher. I think he loses the outside too often as well, which was interesting for a bigger guy. He wasn't as stout as I would have liked. And I don't think his athleticism allows him to finish plays often enough, which is something I want to see. But I do think that there are guys out there or teams out there that are going to want to bet on that upside. He is just 20 years old still, and he is probably going to go to the combine and be that size, speed freak, athleticism freak that they're going to love, right? I agree with what you said as well, that this guy might be better going to the inside, or at least playing, over, the guard tackle gap, like that kind of a guy, not necessarily like over the nose, but can really sit in as a defensive tackle and win in that regard. I had him though as probably a late round 1, early round 2 guy, just because again, I think edge rushers go that early. But I did see more in him that I liked than Mykel. So I already talked about my 6 and 5. Who is your 5?
So my 5, I have Shemar Stewart. And in a similar vein, do I think he's an edge long term? To me, he's better on the interior, or at least better suited archetypally, if that's a word. His archetype seems better suited on the interior. And when we showed those clips earlier on in this episode, especially that final one where he just knifes in for the tackle for a loss in the run game, right? And he just kind of splits that. He doesn't allow the backside player to kind of get that reach on him. To me, that's what he does best. He's bursty. He has that burst off the line, but he's 6'6", 290. So if you just slap him on the edge, he has a burst, but he can't bend around the corner because he's so damn big. So he beats you with explosion. He beats you with strength and length. But to finish on the edge, you need to be able to really close on that outside shoulder and kind of close that pursuit there to the quarterback. And he just can't do it because he's just too big. So for me, if you're going to be a bursty type of athlete and you're going to win off the snap and you're going to be more of a, kind of push, kind of a pusher to get pressure, right? You're just going to win with strength, then go on the interior. And when he is lined up in a 5-tech like that, he sifts through the trash really well. Like he can actually navigate those cut blocks and knife through the backfield. So to me, he's suited for the interior. When people are going to try to run misdirections and reach blocks and zones and all this other stuff, he can win with that quickness and explosion. But if you put him on the edge, I don't see him ever bending enough or really at all consistently enough to actually finish plays as a pass rusher from the edge. So to me, he screams defensive interior at the next level. So I have him at 5 here. And then if I were to consider him as a defensive interior player, it's tantalizing. There's not a lot of film there. So with this being a good class at that spot, I'm not sure I could put him above guys like Mykel Williams or Derek Harmon. There's obviously the 2 Michigan kids at the top of the first round. But, I think he's better suited for that spot. So if he ends up being defensive interior 5, for example, for me, if I were to classify him as that, as opposed to edge 5, I am much more excited about him as defensive interior 5 than I am as my edge 5, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. So he is the one I knew that we were going to see differently. Mm-hmm. And you might think I'm kind of a crazy man for saying this. I had him as my edge 2.
Oh my gosh.
And I think the reason being, and let me do his summary for the people that are audio only. So Shemar Stewart, 21 years old from Texas A&M, spent 3 years there. He is 6'6", 290, as Ray alluded to, 79.5 defensive grade, 88.2 run defensive grade, and a 67.2 pass rushing grade. So this is a prospect to me that you're right. He's probably not best as being your true edge rusher. Like if you need a number 1 edge that you want, like the traditional sense, the guy that's going to rack up sacks, this probably isn't your guy. But I saw him very differently, where I saw him as potentially the best run defensive end in the draft at all, right? And I think when you talk about edge rushers, you at least need to have one of the elite traits. I think Abdul Carter probably has both. Mike Green probably has one of them. I think Shemar Stewart has one of them too, and it's the run defense. I think he is an absolutely elite run defender in ways that, like, I haven't really seen much of that in the past few drafts where there's a guy this talented at run defense. I think his power and his explosiveness are phenomenal. And he has strength that really, like, there's nobody. We just saw him beat up on what a lot of people believe to be tackle 1 of this class, and like he was making him look awful, which gives me concerns about Will Campbell. We'll get to that at future episodes. But, this is a guy that really was making him look just physically inept. I think he wears his weight extremely well. If you saw him, you would just never expect that's 290 pounds. So if he really is 290 pounds, that's the freakiest 290 pounds I maybe have ever seen. I do think, he does struggle with winning with his speed and getting that separation to get sacks. So if he is playing as a true edge rusher, you're not gonna love that, right? There are things that are missing there. And then I think that his hand skills need to be developed. I don't think they're really what they need to be. He wins with power so much. I don't think he knows the nuances of using his hands and winning those hand battles. So I want to see that develop. Even if he moves to the inside, that's going to have to get a lot better. But to me, again, this is a true difference maker in that run game. and wins in ways that I don't think any other edge rusher in this class can win with. So for me, having an elite talent like that puts him at edge 2. And I will say, I think it's very close to him and the other guy. But my comp for Shemar Stewart is a little bit of the guy on the Cowboys, DeMarcus Lawrence, who I think is going to leave in free agency. That's the type of kind of player that I think he ends up being at the next level, where you don't want him to be your speed edge rusher. Hopefully you have a guy to do that. But across from him, you do want a guy that's that true run defender and can set an edge and be powerful and disrupt plays with power and strength that, you essentially need to double team on any run play, which is going to free up the other guys to do a lot more stuff. So I really like that for Shemar Stewart and what he can potentially be at the next level. And I do have him as a top, 15 pick at the next level. And what better place for him to land than to be DeMarcus Lawrence's replacement at pick 12? I think that'd be a phenomenal landing spot for him, and something I'm sure you wouldn't like, but it's something I think would do really well.
I don't know if I could draft a run-stopping edge defender in the top 12 or 15 or even 20. Like, this is a pass. This is a defense. This is a pass league. This is a pass-first league, and now I'm spending a premier pick on a premier position to stop not the pass, not the pass at all, but the run. That's what the big guys in the middle are for. For that, I'll just draft Kenneth Grant and then draft an athletic player on the edge. And now I got my run stuffer in the middle and my speed guy on the outside. So that's rich for me. I like Stewart in my, to me, I have him in the second round as a defensive interior with first round upside that we just can't see because there's not a ton of film on the interior for him. But I don't know. So you have him over Mike Green.
I do, but those two guys are really, really, really close.
So here's my thing with, and we'll get into this when we talk a bit further, but like for Shemar Stewart, right? If I miss out on Shemar Stewart, I can draft me a JT Tuimoloau out from Ohio State. I could draft me a Jack Sawyer, another power type of player on the edge who, can kind of set the edge and stop the run. And that's fine. I have a comparable player. If you miss out on Mike Green, who's the next Mike Green type of player in this class that you can get? There's less demand, or there's more demand and less supply of those guys. To where I'm not using Mykel Williams isn't a nice backup plan for Mike Green. That to me, the drop off is further when you start looking at those type of archetypes here. If you miss on that guy, that's why I would definitely have. I see why you like Stewart, but to me, it's like that's a little easier to find than a Mike Green.
I don't think at that level. Like I said, there's been few prospects that I've seen that disrupt the run as well as this guy did. And some plays, people, again, go watch the YouTube. You can see the plays that Ray showed. And that's why I didn't want to show him, because I thought I would be way too kind and I'd show all the good. But you showed a lot of it too, right? A lot of the power that this guy has, to me, is extremely special. But it seems like you have Mike Green at 2 and I have him at 3. So why don't we talk about him for a second? That's where the conversation's naturally leading. So Mike Green is 6'4", 248 pounds, played a year at Virginia, the past 2 years at Marshall, just under 1,100 career snaps, 92.4 defensive grade, 90.2 run defensive grade, 91.4 pass rushing grade. And this is a guy, like you're saying, this is a guy that plays with insane intensity. He's got great speed, great burst, great bend, great power that he brings with his body. I think that he might be, if we're going to get into some of the negatives and why maybe I have guys ahead of him, is because I think maybe he is slightly undersized and he's going to get to the combine and be slightly smaller than what he's listed at, or he's going to gain weight and, maybe match his size, but is that really what he plays at, right? I think there's a little bit of a concern there for me. I think that he won a lot with his explosiveness, but not necessarily with the strength that I think he has. Because he's a little bit smaller, is it going to be tough for him if he doesn't win with that first step? If he doesn't win with his athleticism, will he be able to win with a bull rush? I don't know, right? And that's where I think Abdul Carter can win anyway. I think Shemar Stewart can definitely win with his bull rush. So there's maybe a little bit of something missing there with Mike Green where, you showed him against Ohio State. So, I mean, that's legit NFL talent. But I do think that, playing, 14 games, however many games he played at Marshall and getting 17 sacks is a little different than getting 17 sacks playing for Alabama, right? It's the competition that you're playing is typically different. I think he's a really solid player. I think he's a really good player. I think he's also a top 15 pick, most likely. And I think it's just really going to be the flavor of ice cream for the team picking. Will a team say, I want the guy that's going to stop the run, that can be, a disruptor at a different scale, and I can play across from my speed rusher that I already have? Or is it, hey, I need a guy that can get after the quarterback and haul ass, and that's Mike Green, so I'm going to go Mike Green. I think you can't miss with either of them, and I had them very, very close. If anything, it's a 2A and 2B kind of thing. But that's why I have him slightly behind. It's because I think the competition's a little bit different. I think his size might be a little overrated, and I think that there's a chance that he's going to struggle going against some of the stronger offensive linemen at the NFL level.
So I think Senior Bowl just pulled it up. Senior Bowl measurements were 6'3", 251. So not a terrible weight.
In shorter, not terrible weight, but like I said, I think there's the potential there that maybe he just put on some pounds.
Sure. But he looked good at the Senior Bowl. So he still looked good and athletic. To me, the concern there, even more so than the weight, is the frame. 32-inch arms, which is on the shorter side. And so, but again, we've seen him win against talent with those shorter arms. He went to the Senior Bowl, still had a very good week, and his arms are still short. It's not like they shrunk since then. So it's not the ideal or the prototype even speed rusher frame, which I think knocks him back a little bit. I mean, the easy comp to look at is, of course, you just go back a year and it's like, well, Chop Robinson, kind of the same build. I think Chop Robinson was a little more explosive even and bursty in that respect, and can really bend even to that really upper echelon there. Chop was drafted way too late. The NFL, they just can't draft. I mean, that was so obvious. He should have been taken higher than he was. But in any event, Mike Green is of that same mold. He's kind of like an upper middle class type of Chop Robinson archetype. So that's what you're getting. It's an easy comp, but there's a lot there to like, and that makes sense for you. So yeah, if you're looking for a speed rusher, Mike Green is the guy. Again, we kind of showed it on the film there. It's not that he's a net negative in the run game, but he's not going to really add anything to your defense there. He's just probably not going to get you really beat soundly in that respect. So pretty easy sort of comp there. Go ahead.
I do think the NFL's changing a little bit too, right? Okay. Where like, yes, pass game is always going to be most important. But like 3 years ago, it was probably like 70% of the game, where it was like 70-30, where now it might be like 60-40 and trending towards being like 55-45, where like I think this run game is starting to get more aggressive, especially next year when all of these running backs come in that are going to be really, great special players. How much more does it continue to shift that way? Is it really that you need to just push for kind of that speedy edge rusher? And I do think it matters, right? When you're seeing a guy get blocked by tight ends, like I don't want my edge rusher to get blocked by tight ends. Like, number one, that can't happen for me. Like for my team, the team that I'm putting together, that just absolutely can't happen. But let's transition to James Pearce, who it sounds like you have at 3 and I have at 4. Is that right?
I have James Pearce at 3. Yes.
Okay. So 21 years old, 6'5", 243, played 3 years at Tennessee, 987 career snaps, 87.1 defensive grade, 84.1 run defensive grade, and an 89.4 pass rush. Tell me what you think of him, Ray.
I like him a lot too. There's not too, I mean, I like Mike Green more, obviously he's higher ranked, but I don't think there's that much of a gap between the two. A couple things that really stand out to me when watching James Pearce or Tennessee as a whole, is that they sub in and out a lot. James Pearce was always fresh. We were seeing the best James Pearce there was. If you watch the full game there, I mean, you have to really search for when he's in and out and pay attention, because they sub out a ton. They keep them nice and fresh. He hasn't taken on a full load, whereas like Mike Green, for example, was obviously the heart and soul of that defense and took on a much higher load there as well. But I think to James Pearce's credit, a lot of athleticism there, good burst off the line as well. Not quite the type of bend around the edge as Mike Green has, but Mike Green is very, very good at that. James Pearce still does that at a high level. So I think a lot of the same traits, so a little bit bigger, a lot of the same traits, just maybe not quite to the level when it comes to sort of athletic pass rushing around the edge that Mike Green has, but it's a better frame. I don't hate it if someone has James Pearce over Mike Green. if they do. I think James Pearce became a little bit overhated as the season went on because he started out as the number one edge name in college football to start the season. And then Abdul Carter came in and just obviously took that and ran with it. And since then, people kind of started, when you start at the top, people pick all these holes in your game. And, there are some holes. Yes, he's not a perfect player by any means, but Mike Green kind of storms onto the scene and everybody jumps on that bandwagon a bit. And the next thing you know, you toss James Pearce to the side there. And then you go, oh, well, you know what? These Ohio State rushers had a really great playoff. Maybe they should be ranked ahead. And people start really just overlooking and over basically now underrating James Pearce. So I think he brings a lot of the same things to the table as Mike Green, but with a better frame, just not quite at the level that Green does athletically. But I think there's a lot there to work with. And he could be a very high-end edge 2 for a given team. Potentially an edge 1 with some development there, but a little bit of questions as to how he holds up if he's playing 50 plus snaps a week in the NFL, because he didn't have to do that in college. And obviously the step up in physicality in the NFL is another thing too, when it comes to that wear and tear. We see some players like that wear down over the course of a season, and it does impact their grading as well. So it's just more so that there's more questions to be answered with James Pearce, whereas with Mike Green, we know exactly who he is, his strengths and his weaknesses, whereas James Green, we think we know, and we know mostly, but there's still some questions there to be answered.
Yeah, James Pearce. Yep. So I have a lot of the same notes you do. I think that there is a little bit of a step down from Mike Green, although I agree with you that it's close. I do think that those three guys are kind of that. They're the guys that I really debated, and James Pearce just kind of came out on the bottom for me. I think he's got incredible speed, and his pass rush with speed is phenomenal. That's what you want, right? And again, I'm not sure it necessarily needs to be that you need like this edge 1 that is this fast guy. I think it's like I said, you pair him with Shemar Stewart, you have a great tandem. And that's exactly what I would want on my team, is like that mix of guys. I think he takes on blocks well too, James Pearce. I think he plays with very good fundamentals, and he has like this phenomenal arsenal of moves that might be the best of the class, just to be honest, right? And I think he also he just plays the position really well. Like you said, like at the beginning of the year, this was edge 1. I think he shows that he has the skills to be edge 1 even today. But I do think that I don't think he can win with his strength. Like he struggles against stronger guys. He's going to struggle at the next level when guys are bigger and stronger. I also saw him miss a lot of tackles, and I didn't love that. So if you're telling me that this is a guy that really can only win with speed and some nuance, and not with his strength at all, and maybe isn't like an impact in the run game at all, that's going to be kind of like a negative for me. I still think he's probably like a top 20 pick. I have him in that range, just again, slightly after those other guys. So this is a really high-end prospect. Like I'm not going to take anything away from him. But saying that, we are now down to the last guy.
So hold on, before we get there, so would this be a good way to categorize those three? So to sum up what you said, right? Mm-hmm. You had those three guys. You had Stewart, you had Pearce, and you had Mike Green, right? I'm about to steal something from Vaj Lombardi again here, but it's almost like, you remember Mario Kart?
Sure.
You had like the different racers that you choose from. It's like Mike Green is like Toad, right? The like small, super fast guy. Shemar Stewart is Bowser. He's 6'6", 290, just straight power, just bowls over people. Pearce is kind of like Mario in the middle there, right? Like a little bit like a blend of both, kind of. Not the fastest, not the strongest, but he's kind of there and still does some things pretty well. Like that's kind of what I'm getting from you here. And saying all that based on your ranking, it's almost like, well, I don't even want to say flavor of ice cream, because to me, I still think it's clearly Mike Green above him, but the styles are pretty distinct.
The styles are super distinct, and that's what I struggle with. It really is going to be like who fits best in the situation that the team is drafting, right? Like one of these guys might go early, but like a team might not think they're the best guy. It's just like, hey, that's what we need, and that's what could happen. Like I said, if the Cowboys are on the clock, do they really want a guy that's can only do what Parsons can do, like, right? Like just like the speed part of his game, or do you want a guy that complements him with strength, right? And that's why I don't think the Cowboys would go with a Mike Green, because I think you lose a little bit of that advantage of having that talent if you have two of the guys with the same kind of skill sets. There's not many teams in the NFL, if you like kind of go through it, what team in the NFL has two edge rushers like that both of them kind of like pop and are successful consistently? There's not a lot. Like usually it's you have the guy that can put his hand in the dirt And then you have a guy that can really come with speed. And that's like, like Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack maybe is like one example, but like both of those are like, not Joey Bosa, but like Hall of Fame caliber guys like that, have had years like that. So you're talking about like a different level of talent. I don't know if there really is any.
Yeah, don't put me in the spot like that in a podcast. But yeah, you have to have some balance there, some complementary pieces is what you're saying. And so based on the team need, what's the fit? Styles make fights. You kind of need to build your arsenal and not just be so one-sided, because if you are, the Detroit Lions will just rush for 227 yards against you and win that way.
Exactly. And I think that's also why we see teams not necessarily like you have Aiden Hutchinson and all you hear is like, oh, get another guy to put across from him. It's like, yeah, but there's only so much, like if you add 10 points to it, you might only get 6 back, right? Like that's kind of like what I'm talking about here is like, you don't get the full return on the talent if you kind of double up at that position. But Abdul Carter is unanimously our number one pick for the edge rusher position. 21 years old, out of Penn State, 3 years there, played 2 at linebacker before switching to edge this past season. He's 6'3", 252 pounds, and he's played 1,800 career snaps, 91.2 defensive grade, 78.2 run defensive grade, 92.3 pass rushing grade, 81.8 coverage grade. Ray, I'm going to start off because I don't want to hear you gush too much, and I'll kind of take that heat from you. But this is a guy with probably the most elite bend and athleticism that we've seen as a true edge prospect in the All-22 era. Like Parsons, again, was a linebacker when he came out, so we weren't really reviewing him in that regard. I think he's got flexibility, Abdul Carter, to line up all over the place as well. I think he could be an edge. I think he could be a true middle linebacker. I think he could even drop back in coverage anytime you need him to. He did it well. Like I saw it on tape. He does it well. I think he has strength that, isn't just from his speed, right? It's not just speed that he derives his strength from, like some of the other guys. He has true pop with his just physical nature. And I think he just wins such a high percentage of his rushes that it creates this insane advantage for you. And that's why edge is such a valuable position, is because there's guys like this that when they get to the NFL level, like they win so often. It's like watching him play is just so fun, right? Like, because I imagine like we played corner where like you lose more often than you win. Edge, you win so often that it's like, God, that must be fun. Like it just must be so fun. And when you have the speed and athleticism that Carter has, it's insane. On top of that, he only played edge for 1 season. Think about how much is not unlocked here. Think about how much is still hidden in his talent that still is meant to be unlocked. Like I said, I don't think he has the most advanced hand usage. I don't think he has a great arsenal of moves. That's still yet to come. That still needs to be coached and trained into him. So it's really exciting to think about what this guy could actually be. And it's really easy to make the comparison to the other Penn State guy, Parsons, right? Like Micah Parsons has a lot of the same characteristics as Carter. So I could see that being a really easy kind of comparison there. To me, just again, in all honesty, when you're talking about what the NFL does with these picks and what the different positional value is, yes, Travis Hunter is so interesting and intriguing as a prospect. Obviously, there's a couple of quarterbacks in here that teams are going to want to evaluate and consider for that number 1 pick. But to me, it's Abdul Carter. Like, I just think that the obvious advantage he gives you, he needs to be number 1. And for me, he's the number 1 at edge in the All-22 era, above Chase Young, above Aiden Hutchinson, above name the other guys from last year's class, right? Like he's above all of them in my mind. He is my edge 1 of this year and the All-22 era.
I think he has to be. Especially if we're following the rules of keeping Parsons at linebacker. I always wanted him when the Cowboys drafted him to just be a pass rusher, the scuttlebutt around Penn State. I mean, that was the plan. So Micah Parsons was going to be Abdul Carter before Abdul Carter was, in the sense that in his 3rd year, they were moving him to defensive end. He played linebacker out of necessity. He was mostly an edge player in their Cotton Bowl in 2019, where he just wreaked havoc and basically single-handedly won them that football game. It was a phenomenal performance, and then we never got to see him for a full year at edge due to in 2020, where he set out the season. And then that's why the NFL was so surprised, like, whoa, look at what this guy could do. When in reality, people in the building at Penn State knew exactly what he was capable of. We just could never show the world. And Abdul Carter, we were able to show the world. Abdul Carter is basically a bigger Micah Parsons with like all of the other sliders to about 90%. So he's not quite as bursty and athletic and like just superbly just like out of this world athletic like Parsons is. He's like 90% there. So he's like 90% there, but he's bigger with a better frame. And so outside of that, if you wanted to include him at edge and with that sort of insider knowledge about what they expected of him at edge in his final season in college before it was taken away from him, Abdul Carter has to be number one. I do think Chase Young, I think a lot of people do kind of forget how good he was coming into the league before injuries kind of ruined him and everything else. Probably not terribly far behind, but I think to me, definitely second. And with Abdul Carter, as the year went on, he got better and better and better and more impactful. Some of the stuff he did to Oregon's offensive tackles in the Big Ten championship game was absolutely embarrassing. And I've never heard a stadium in real time audibly groan when he forced a clear hold that went uncalled on a pass rush there because he beat the tackle so badly. Like, in unison, it was audible through the television screen, the sound that the stadium made based on his moves. I mean, he is phenomenal. Again, there's really no weaknesses to his game. The only thing is if you do put him at snaps at linebacker, the more traditional his role is as a linebacker, as far as like actually reading and gap integrity in the run game, you lose it, but you don't expect any coordinators to actually utilize him in that way. I think he'll drop into coverage and be used on occasion in that sense to give a different look to the offense and such. But by and large, he's going to be a pass rusher. He's damn good at it. The game just moves slow for him. He checks every box. He's a phenomenal talent. He really is.
Yeah, and I mean, I think there are two concerns I didn't mention. You didn't either. I was trying to give you an opportunity, but you took the low road. When we watched him, I do think that there's a little bit of this like LeBron to him, where he will win 3 plays in a row and then take 2 off. I did see that on film, and I saw it in person as well. I also will say, right, there was the injury that happened, right, and he had a shoulder injury that we don't know what it's going to affect during this kind of like off-season process. Will teams kind of downgrade his rating because of that and just be a little bit hesitant to take him if they know that maybe a surgery is required, or maybe he's not at full strength and he's not going to be able to step into day one being full strength? But we saw what he could do at not full strength in the playoffs, which was insane. So that's another reason why I have him so high, right? It's like this guy showed that he's a team player. Like, he could have said, hey, I'm entering the NFL draft as maybe the number 1 prospect. I don't need to be out here risking my shoulder and my health, but he did. And I love to see that for a teammate, for a player with, again, integrity. So it doesn't downgrade him for me. But the only thing I will say is, like, there were times where he's like, yeah, I'm not trying too hard on this play.
Yeah. And then the tackle got a little full of himself, said something to him, and then it was over. So
yeah. And it took that to happen for him to like go off, which, again, I'm not going to downgrade him because of it, but I like to see a guy that's going to show effort every play for sure.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't yet, please give us a follow on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and X at all22_PFF, and give us a review wherever you watch or listen to your podcasts. Have a great one.